It was the spit that echoed across the galaxy, a single act of arrogance that would change the fate of Earth forever. The wealthy tourist from Earth had arrived on the planet Zaloria with an air of superiority. Zaloria, a jewel of the Galactic Council, was known for its towering crystal cities, advanced technology, and strict royal traditions. The tourist, dressed in expensive Earth-made clothing, had come to witness the Grand Ceremony of Unity, a sacred event where the Zalorian Royal Guard showcased their discipline and loyalty. But the tourist wasn't there to admire the culture or pay respect. He was there to flaunt his wealth and mock what he called primitive rituals. As the Royal Guard marched in perfect unison, their silver armor gleaming under the twin suns, the tourist leaned over the railing and spat. The glob of saliva landed on the helmet of the lead guard. The crowd gasped. The guard stopped mid-step, his posture stiffening. The ceremony came to a halt. The air grew heavy with tension. The Zalorian rulers, seated on their thrones of shimmering crystal, rose to their feet. Their faces, usually calm and composed, twisted in anger. The tourist laughed, unaware of the storm he had just unleashed. "Arrest him," the High Ruler commanded, his voice cold and sharp. The Royal Guard moved swiftly, surrounding the tourist. He protested, shouting about his rights and his wealth, but the guards didn't care. To them, he had committed. News of the incident spread like wildfire across the galaxy. By the time Earth's leaders learned what had happened, the story had already reached every corner of the Galactic Council. The tourist, whose name was quickly buried under the weight of his actions, had become a symbol of Earth's arrogance in the eyes of the Zalorians. The United Earth Council convened an emergency meeting. The room was filled with tension as diplomats, military leaders, and scientists debated their next move. "This isn't just about one man," said the lead diplomat, a seasoned negotiator with decades of experience. "This is about our place in the galaxy. If we don't handle this carefully, we could be banned from the Galactic Council. We'll lose access to trade routes, technology, and protection." The room fell silent. Everyone knew the stakes. Earth had only recently joined the Galactic Council after centuries of isolation. Being banned would mean losing everything they had worked for. A decision was made: a diplomatic team would be sent to Zaloria to negotiate. The team, led by the same seasoned diplomat, included a cultural expert, a historian, and a military advisor. They boarded the fastest ship available and set course for Zaloria. When they arrived, they were met with cold stares and tight-lipped silence. The Zalorians, known for their pride, were not in the mood for apologies. The diplomatic team was escorted to the Crystal Palace, where the High Ruler awaited them. The palace was a marvel of architecture, with walls made of translucent crystal that refracted light into a rainbow of colors. But the beauty of the place did little to ease the tension. The High Ruler sat on his throne, his expression unreadable. "You come to beg for mercy," he said, his voice echoing through the hall. "But your people have shown us none. Why should we show you any?" The lead diplomat stepped forward, bowing deeply. "Your Excellency, we deeply regret the actions of our citizen. He does not represent Earth or its people. We are here to make amends and ensure this never happens again." The High Ruler leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "Amends? Your tourist spat on one of my royal guards during the Grand Ceremony of Unity. Do you understand what that means? It is not just an insult to the guard, it is an insult to our entire civilization." The diplomat nodded, choosing his words carefully. "We understand the gravity of the situation. But we also believe in the power of forgiveness and the importance of unity. Earth and Zaloria have much to gain from a strong relationship. Let us not allow the actions of one man to destroy that." The High Ruler's expression remained stern. "Your words are empty. Justice must be served. The tourist will face our laws, and Earth will face the consequences of his actions." The diplomatic team left the palace with heavy hearts. They had failed to sway the High Ruler, and time was running out. As they walked through the crystal streets, the cultural expert noticed something unusual, a mural depicting an ancient alliance between Earth and Zaloria. "Wait," she said, stopping in her tracks. This mural, it shows Earth and Zaloria working together. But I've never heard of this in our history. The historian examined the mural closely. This is incredible. It seems our ancestors helped the Zalorians during a great crisis. But why was this erased from our records? The team realized they had stumbled upon a hidden connection, one that could change everything. But would it be enough to save Earth from isolation? The royal guard who had been spat on stood silently in his quarters, his silver armor gleaming under the soft light of the crystal lamps. His name was Kale, though no one on Earth would ever know it. To them, he was just a faceless guard, a symbol of Zalorian pride and discipline. But Kale was more than that. He removed his helmet, revealing a face marked by years of duty and sacrifice. His eyes, a deep shade of violet, reflected the turmoil within him. The incident with the tourist had shaken him to his core, not because of the insult, but because of what it represented. Kale had always been fascinated by Earth. As a child, he had secretly listened to stories about the blue planet, its diverse cultures, and its resilient people. He had dreamed of visiting Earth one day, of walking among its people and learning from them. But those dreams had been buried under the weight of his responsibilities. Zalorian society was rigid and unforgiving. The royal guard was expected to be perfect, flawless in their duty, unwavering in their loyalty. There was no room for personal desires or curiosity about other worlds. Kale had learned to hide his fascination with Earth, burying it deep within him. But now, as he stared at his reflection in the polished surface of his helmet, he couldn't ignore the conflict raging inside him. The tourist's actions had been despicable, but Kale couldn't help but wonder if Earth was truly as arrogant as the High Ruler claimed. His thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. It was his commanding officer, a stern woman named Vera. "Kale," she said, her voice sharp. "The High Ruler has ordered you to testify at the tourist's trial. You will speak of the insult and the dishonor he brought upon our people." Kale nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. As Vera left, he made a decision. He would not simply parrot the High Ruler's words. He would find out the truth about Earth, even if it meant going against his own people. That night, Kale accessed the restricted archives of the Crystal Palace. The archives contained ancient records, some of which had been erased from public knowledge. Among them, he found something astonishing, a record of an ancient alliance between Earth and Zaloria. According to the records, Earth had once helped Zaloria during a great crisis. The Zalorians, facing extinction due to a deadly plague, had reached out to Earth for help. Earth's scientists had worked tirelessly to develop a cure, saving countless lives. In gratitude, the Zalorians had pledged eternal friendship with Earth. But over time, the alliance had been forgotten. The Zalorian rulers, eager to maintain their image of self-sufficiency, had erased the records and rewritten history. Kale realized that the High Ruler's anger was not just about the tourist's actions, it was about pride. Kale knew he had to act. He couldn't let Earth be punished for the actions of one man, not when there was so much more at stake. But going against the High Ruler would mean risking everything, his position, his honor, even his life. As dawn broke over the Crystal City, Kale made his choice. He would help Earth, even if it meant becoming a traitor in the eyes of his own people. The diplomatic team from Earth sat in their temporary quarters, poring over the mural they had discovered. The historian, a middle-aged man with a keen eye for detail, was translating the ancient Zalorian script etched into the crystal walls. "This is incredible," he said, his voice filled with awe. "According to this, Earth and Zaloria were once allies. Our ancestors helped them during a great crisis, a plague that nearly wiped out their civilization. Earth scientists developed a cure and saved countless lives." The cultural expert, a young woman with a passion for intergalactic relations, leaned forward. "But why was this erased from our history? And why don't the Zalorians remember it?" The lead diplomat, a seasoned negotiator with a sharp mind, frowned. "Pride. The Zalorians are a proud people. They value self-sufficiency and strength. Admitting that they needed help from another civilization, especially one they now consider inferior, would be a blow to their ego." The military advisor, a no-nonsense woman with years of experience, crossed her arms. So, what do we do with this information? The High Ruler isn't exactly in the mood to listen to us. The diplomat stood, pacing the room. We need to find a way to present this information without offending them further. If we can remind them of our shared history, maybe we can appeal to their sense of honor. As the team debated their next move, there was a soft knock on the door. The cultural expert opened it to find a Zalorian standing outside, his face hidden under a hood. "May I come in?" the Zalorian asked, his voice low. The team exchanged glances, before nodding. The Zalorian stepped inside and removed his hood, revealing the face of Kale, the royal guard who had been spat on. "I know why you're here," Kale said, his violet eyes filled with determination. "And I want to help." The team was stunned. They hadn't expected a Zalorian, let alone a royal guard, to offer assistance. "Why would you help us?" the diplomat asked, his tone cautious. Kale hesitated, then spoke. "Because I believe in the truth. Our people have forgotten the alliance between Earth and Zaloria, but I haven't. I've seen the records in the restricted archives. Earth saved us once, and now it's time for us to return the favor." The cultural expert's eyes lit up. "This is it. This is our chance. If we can present this evidence to the High Ruler, maybe we can change his mind." Kale shook his head. "It won't be that easy. The High Ruler is proud and stubborn. He won't listen to words alone. You'll need proof, something undeniable." The historian held up the data pad containing the translated records. "We have proof. But how do we present it without making the High Ruler feel threatened?" Kale thought for a moment. "There's a way. During the trial, I'll testify as planned. But instead of focusing on the insult, I'll reveal the truth about our shared history. The High Ruler won't be able to ignore it, especially if it's presented in front of the entire court." The team agreed, but they knew the risks. If Kale's plan failed, it could make things worse for both Earth and himself. As the trial approached, the tension in the Crystal City grew. The Zalorians were eager to see justice served, while the Earth team prepared for what could be their last chance to save their planet. The trial was held in the Grand Hall of the Crystal Palace, a vast chamber filled with towering crystal pillars and shimmering light. The High Ruler sat on his throne, his expression unreadable, while the members of the Galactic Council watched from their seats. The atmosphere was tense, every eye focused on the tourist from Earth, who stood in the center of the room, his arrogance replaced by fear. Kale, the royal guard, stood at attention, his silver armor gleaming. He had been called to testify, and all eyes turned to him as he stepped forward. "Kale of the royal guard," the High Ruler said, his voice echoing through the hall. "You were the one who was insulted by this Earthling. Tell us what happened." Kale took a deep breath, his violet eyes scanning the room. He knew this was his moment, the moment to reveal the truth. "Your Excellency," he began, his voice steady, "it is true that this man spat on me during the grand ceremony of unity. His actions were disrespectful and dishonorable. But before I speak of the insult, I must speak of something greater, something that has been forgotten by our people." The room fell silent. The High Ruler's eyes narrowed, but he did not interrupt. "Long ago," Kale continued, "our civilization faced a great crisis. A plague swept through our cities, threatening to wipe us out. We were desperate, with no cure in sight. It was Earth that came to our aid. Their scientists worked tirelessly, risking their own lives to save ours. They developed a cure and shared it with us, saving countless Zalorian lives. In gratitude, our ancestors pledged eternal friendship with Earth." The hall erupted in murmurs. The members of the Galactic Council exchanged shocked glances, while the High Ruler's face darkened. "Where's your proof of this?" the High Ruler demanded, his voice cold. Kale gestured to the Earth diplomatic team, who stepped forward with the datapad containing the translated records. The historian handed it to the High Ruler, who scanned the information with a frown. "This changes nothing," the High Ruler said, though his voice lacked its usual conviction. "The actions of this Earthling cannot be excused by ancient history. The lead diplomat from Earth stepped forward, bowing deeply. Your Excellency, we do not seek to excuse his actions. We seek only to remind you of the bond between our civilizations. Earth has always respected Zaloria, and we deeply regret the actions of this man. Let us not allow one act of arrogance to destroy a friendship that has endured for centuries. The High Ruler was silent for a long moment, his gaze shifting between Kale, the Earth team, and the tourist. Finally, he spoke. The trial will adjourn for 1 hour. I will consider this new information. As the High Ruler left the hall, the tension in the room remained. The Earth team knew this was their best chance, but they also knew the High Ruler's pride could still lead to Earth's downfall. Kale approached the team, his expression grim. You've done all you can. Now we wait. The hour of adjournment felt like an eternity. The Earth diplomatic team sat in silence, their minds racing with possibilities. The historian clutched the data pad tightly, as if it were their only lifeline. The cultural expert paced the room, her thoughts filled with hope and fear. The military advisor stood by the window, her sharp eyes scanning the crystal city below. Meanwhile, on Earth, news of the trial had spread like wildfire. The people were outraged. For centuries, they had struggled to prove themselves worthy of a place in the Galactic Council, only to have their efforts undone by the actions of one arrogant man. In a rare show of unity, Earth's leaders convened an emergency global summit. The mood was defiant. We've spent too long begging for respect, said one leader, her voice filled with determination. If the Zalorians won't recognize our value, then we'll show them what Earth is truly capable of. Another leader nodded in agreement. We have the resources, the technology, and the will to stand on our own. Let's build our own empire, one that doesn't rely on the approval of others. The decision was made, Earth would withdraw from the Galactic Council and begin building its own empire. Scientists, engineers, and strategists were called into action, working around the clock to develop new technologies and strengthen Earth's defenses. Ancient knowledge, long forgotten, was rediscovered and put to use. Back on Zaloria, the High Ruler returned to the Grand Hall, his expression unreadable. The room fell silent as he took his seat. I have considered the evidence presented, he said, his voice cold and measured. While the actions of Earth's ancestors are commendable, they do not excuse the actions of this man. Earth's place in the Galactic Council remains under review. The Earth team exchanged glances, their hearts sinking. They had hoped for a different outcome, but the High Ruler's pride had prevailed. Before they could respond, a message arrived from Earth. The lead diplomat read it quickly, his eyes widening. Your Excellency, he said, stepping forward, Earth has made a decision. We will no longer seek the approval of the Galactic Council. We are withdrawing our membership and will forge our own path. The room erupted in gasps and murmurs. The High Ruler's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. Kale, standing at the edge of the room, felt a surge of pride. Earth's defiance was bold, but it was also risky. Without the protection of the Galactic Council, Earth would be vulnerable. As the Earth team left the Grand Hall, Kale followed them. You're making a mistake, he said quietly. The Zalorians won't take this lightly. They'll see it as a challenge. The lead diplomat turned to him, his expression resolute. We've spent too long trying to prove ourselves. It's time we stood on our own. But we could use your help. Kale hesitated, then nodded. I'll do what I can. But know this, the road ahead won't be easy. Kale returned to his quarters, his mind racing. He had always been loyal to Zaloria, but now he found himself torn between his duty and his conscience. Earth's defiance had stirred something deep within him, a sense of admiration for their courage and resilience. That night, Kale made his decision. He would help Earth, even if it meant betraying his own people. Using his access to the restricted archives, Kale gathered as much information as he could about Zaloria's weaknesses and vulnerabilities. He knew that Earth would need every advantage if they were to stand a chance against the might of the Galactic Council. As he worked, Kale couldn't shake the feeling of guilt. He had spent his entire life serving Zaloria, and now he was about to turn his back on everything he had ever known. But he also knew that the Zalorians' pride had blinded them to the truth. Earth deserved a chance to prove themselves, and Kale was determined to give them that chance. The next morning, Kale met with the Earth diplomatic team in secret. He handed them a data chip containing the information he had gathered. "This is everything you'll need," he said, his voice low. "Zaloria's defenses, their supply lines, their weaknesses. Use it wisely." The lead diplomat took the chip, his expression a mix of gratitude and concern. "You're taking a huge risk. If they find out what you've done." Kale nodded. "I know. But this is the right thing to do. Earth has shown me that there's more to strength than pride and power. It's about courage, resilience, and the willingness to stand up for what's right." The team thanked him, but Kale knew their gratitude wouldn't protect him if he was caught. As he left the meeting, he couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. He had made his choice, and now he would have to live with the consequences. Earth's decision to withdraw from the Galactic Council sent shockwaves across the galaxy. The Zalorians, once confident in their superiority, were now faced with a defiant Earth that refused to bow to their demands. The High Ruler, furious at what he saw as an act of rebellion, ordered his forces to prepare for a confrontation. But Earth was ready. Using the information provided by Kale, Earth's scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to strengthen their defenses and develop new technologies. Ancient knowledge, long forgotten, was rediscovered and put to use. Earth's military, once considered weak and inexperienced, began to transform into a formidable force. The Galactic Council, initially dismissive of Earth's defiance, soon realized that they had underestimated the Blue Planet. Earth's new technologies and strategies proved to be more advanced than anyone had anticipated, and their determination to stand on their own inspired other civilizations to question the Council's authority. Kale, still on Zaloria, watched from afar as Earth's empire began to take shape. He felt a sense of pride in what they had accomplished, but he also knew that the real test was yet to come. The High Ruler, unwilling to back down, ordered an attack on Earth. The Zalorian fleet, one of the most powerful in the galaxy, set course for the Blue Planet, determined to crush the rebellion once and for all. But Earth was ready. As the Zalorian fleet approached, they were met with a surprising resistance. Earth's new defenses held strong, and their advanced technologies gave them an edge in battle. The Zalorians, used to easy victories, found themselves struggling against a determined and resourceful opponent. Kale, watching the battle unfold from Zaloria, knew that this was the turning point. If Earth could hold their ground against the Zalorian fleet, it would prove to the galaxy that they were a force to be reckoned with. As the battle raged on, Kale made a bold decision. He would join the fight, not as a Zalorian, but as an ally of Earth. The battle between Earth and the Zalorian fleet reached its climax. Earth's defenses, bolstered by their newfound technologies and strategies, held strong against the onslaught. The Zalorians, despite their superior numbers and firepower, found themselves struggling to gain the upper hand. Kale, now openly fighting alongside Earth, proved to be a valuable asset. His knowledge of Zalorian tactics and weaknesses gave Earth a crucial advantage. The sight of a Zalorian royal guard fighting for Earth sent a powerful message to both sides. This was not just a battle of strength, but a battle of ideals. As the battle raged on, the High Ruler watched from his command ship, his pride slowly giving way to doubt. He had always believed in the superiority of Zaloria, but now he was faced with the undeniable truth: Earth was not the weak, inferior civilization he had thought them to be. Finally, the High Ruler made a decision. He ordered his fleet to retreat. The Zalorians, shocked but obedient, withdrew from the battle. The Galactic Council, witnessing the unexpected turn of events, began to question their own assumptions about Earth. In the aftermath of the battle, Earth emerged as a symbol of resilience and determination. Their defiance had not only secured their independence, but had also inspired other civilizations to stand up for their own rights and freedoms. Kale, now a hero to both Earth and Zaloria, stood before the High Ruler, his head held high. "You have shown us the error of our ways," the High Ruler admitted, his voice filled with humility. Your courage and integrity have reminded us of the true meaning of strength. We were wrong to judge Earth based on the actions of one man. Kale nodded, his violet eyes filled with pride. Earth has shown us that strength is not about power or pride, but about courage, resilience, and the willingness to stand up for what's right. Let this be a lesson for the galaxy. The High Ruler extended his hand to Kale, a gesture of respect and reconciliation. You have done a great service to both our civilizations. We will not forget this. As Kale shook the High Ruler's hand, he knew that this was just the beginning. The galaxy was changing, and Earth was at the forefront of that change.